If America is headed for bankruptcy, what can we do about it? Progressives say they have the answer. Tax the rich, people like me. And joining us now from Boston is Mike Lapham, director of the Center for Responsible Wealth, an advocacy group that says tax the rich more. And Mike, you include yourself.
Indeed, indeed.
You're rich?
Well, my great-great-grandfather founded a paper mill in upstate New York about, 1865, and yeah, I'm doing all right.
So what do you mean responsible wealth? What's responsible?
So our members are people who are in the top 5% in terms of their wealth or income in the U.S., and there are people who get that they don't need another tax break, that we should have an estate tax, that we need more corporate accountability, things like that.
All right. You don't think, though, that there's a risk that that will kill jobs? I think higher taxes make some people work less. And here's a clip from a documentary in which a historian says that was the reason Ronald Reagan cut taxes.
We must go forward with a tax relief package. I shall ask for a 10% reduction across the board in personal income tax rates.
The context for him was the movie industry.
Hey, wouldn't it be something if the president came to see us?
He'd make a certain number of movies, and then anytime he made another movie, he figured that 80 or 90% of the income he was getting from that movie would go to the federal government. So he would stop making movies and go off and ride horses.
That's the risk, that more people will ride horses instead of start businesses and create jobs.
Well, that's the myth anyway. That certainly sounds good, but the reality is, this has been proven over and over. United for a Fair Economy did a report on this a few years back. There is no real link between tax cuts and job growth. And if you talk to our members, I've been talking to a lot of our members and saying, well, what do you think? Is this going to affect you to raise the top tax rate, on folks like you in the top 2%, over $250,000 income? And they say to me, no, I've never made a decision, a business decision, based on what the tax rate is going to be on my profits.
You ask your members, but hey, your members are your members. They already want to raise taxes. Of course they're going to say that.
Okay, so the reality of this is, if we're talking about raising taxes on the top 2%, 97% of all small businesses are below that rate. So it's not going to affect them. The idea that the sky is going to fall because we're raising taxes on the wealthiest folks in this country is crazy.
You mentioned your great-great-grandfather starting that paper mill. When he started it, there was no income tax. Maybe if there was, he wouldn't have started it, and you wouldn't be a fat cat today getting to talk about paying more.
I think that's people like to think that, but you go back to the 50s, the 60s, people don't start businesses because the tax rates are low. People start businesses because they want to do something, they want to achieve something, they want to make money, they want to make a product, they want to meet a need, they want to compete with their friend. People have an entrepreneurial spirit. They're not looking, let me see what the tax rate is and decide whether I should start this business. That's just not reality.
I just can't believe that wouldn't affect people. 2 years ago, Maryland added an extra tax on millionaires, which was supposed to bring in another $100 million. Instead, revenue went down by $250 million.
Right. I'm sure there are lots of factors. New York, 100 of our responsible wealth members in New York signed a letter supporting similar legislation. They had a $20 billion deficit in that state, and they signed this letter, and they put in this two new tax rates, above $200,000 and above $500,000, good for $4 billion a year. It doesn't solve the whole problem, but this is something that needs to happen.
You mentioned New York State. They did try to raise money by taxing the rich. They didn't find that it worked, and even my liberal governor in New York State said this experience was not so good. He now has second thoughts.
We increased the income tax for millionaires last year, and we projected that we'd get $4 billion, and we actually got well short of it.
Rich people can leave.
Yeah, we have a quote from Mayor Bloomberg saying, look, none of my friends are going to leave the city because the tax rate is a little bit higher. You know, we have choices to make. We need to get this economy back on our feet, and we also need to bring down the deficit. So this is the responsible way to go about it.
Well, thank you, Mike Lapham.